Yes, everybody, welcome back to Football United TV. This is the United Across the Globe show. I'm joined by Brush and Talk MU. Also, a special Liverpool fan, Ozzie, coming on later on. But first off, here is the intro. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to United Across the Globe, where we talk all things Man United, and it's been a brilliant week for the club this week. And I'm joined by a very special guest, Talk MU and Brush. Guys, how you doing?
Brilliant.
Yep. All good, bro. All good. Happy as Larry, as they say. I don't know who Larry is, but he's happy.
Yeah, that's a really good point to shout that out. I've never actually known who Larry is. We'll have to look that up and find out where that's
I'll tell you, Larry's a Man United fan right now. That's
yeah.
I always thought he was. Yeah. Well, let's talk about what happened then last Sunday. The League Cup winners, of course, against Newcastle. It was 2-0. It was quite a tough first half. Newcastle were really going for it. And we managed to obviously get that first goal, and then it was sort of put to bed after that. Guys, just a brief, quick chat on this final. It's good for Man United, isn't it? The first trophy in, 5 years or 6 years?
6 years, yeah. 2017 was the last time we won anything.
Right. So what do we make of this? This is good, right? We're on the right path to victory. Talk.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what I like about it is the fact that we seem to have numerous alternatives, i.e. tactical wise, because of, again, like Ten Hag says about the dynamics in the team, where players in different positions create different dynamics. And, for him to be able to come in and do that and get the team to buy into that and trust in it and believe in it, this is the result, is we're picking up trophies. And, we're winning matches. And all right, I know it might not seem always convincing that we're winning matches, but the fact is, we're winning matches, and you compare it to last season. I mean, it's an absolute, it's a turnaround of what is it, 180 degrees or whatever. It's just flipped on its head.
That's the thing, isn't it? I think, Talk, you made a good point there. I wonder if you could brush on it a little bit, Brush.
Listen, it's night and day how far we've come in like the last 7-8 months. Won a trophy, first time of asking, first thing that was up for grabs, and we've got it. What a great stepping stone to build on. And yeah, like you touched on, I'm glad that we've got the options that we do. I think Talk mentioned, and Ed Ten Hag mentioned as well over the last 2 weeks or so about confusing the opposition. And when we set up tactically, like, you got players that can switch around. You're not sure where they're going to play exactly. Like, you got Bruno, he can be on the right, he can be down the middle. You got Weghorst, you can play up front or drop into the 10. Marcus can come in from the left or up front. We're causing teams problems. And even if we don't play well, we're still grinding out results and finding a way to win. And there's that belief there. And that's the sign of champions, if you ask me.
Exactly, and not only that, the clean sheet in the final was good to see. The fact that we didn't concede a goal. I believe De Gea got a sort of golden glove the other night. I can't remember for breaking.
Yeah, he's beaten Peter Schmeichel's record. He's now, at that time he did be. We kept it. Well, no, we didn't keep clean sheet yesterday, did we? 181 clean sheets, I believe. He's overtaken Peter Schmeichel for the number of clean sheets for the club. Fantastic achievement.
He is important. I mean, against Newcastle as well. Just to delve on that a little bit more. People obviously want De Gea to go. I don't think he should go. I think he's been a brilliant servant to the club. There's some parts of his play that some keepers are better at, like maybe distribution, etc. But yeah, what do you think, guys? De Gea, like he's got to stay here, right?
Yeah, look, it's a great goalkeeper as a shot stopper, like you just quite rightly said. He's the distribution side of things. However, I mean, when you look at the way we are now, still trying to play the ball out, even when we're being pressured a lot of the time, and that's not something that we have to do anyway all the time. We can decide, you know what, just lump it, and we're going to look for a Weghorst, you know, try and affect it, bring it down, etc. But we can still play it out, and I think, given where we are as a club right now, you know, the transition that we're in and the transition that we've made as it is ongoing, to be fair, I think he's doing a fantastic job, David De Gea. You can't say he's not. I don't, because if this was 3 years into Erik ten Hag's reign and we were still talking about David De Gea not being able to play it out from the back, then obviously then you've got a talking point. But as it stands right now, you can't, because it's 275, I think, or 276 days now that he's been in the job. So I'm not going to buy any of that nonsense about David De Gea. He's doing a great job and he's a quality keeper. Simple as that.
Simple as that. Yeah, love it. Okay, cool. So maybe just to quickly go back to Newcastle as well. Do you think it was unfortunate for them? They were looking for their first trophy in a very long time. They did come out on the front foot. Did play extremely good football. Fans were really good too. They turned out actually from pretty much everywhere. They took over Trafalgar Square, didn't they, the night before, apparently? Yeah, what did you make of it from their side of things? Brush?
I thought they could be very proud of the way their team performed. Eddie Howe's done a fantastic job, hasn't he? Just over a year and a bit ago, like, it was sat bottom at Christmas in the league, looking very likely to get relegated. So look how far they've come. And obviously with the backing they've got as well, you know, it's only a matter of time. Newcastle are coming. They've always been a big club with a big fan base. And with the backing, they're going right to the top, aren't they? On the day, like, yeah, I thought they played quite well, actually. It's one of those.
Going to have to wait their turn, aren't they, Talk? That's the thing, isn't it? Maybe not this time, but they are going to eventually win something, aren't they, with the backing that they've got and the fact that the Saudi people that do own the club are definitely going to push them to at least be competing in Champions Leagues and contending for titles and possibly winning FA Cups. What did you make of it from their perspective, mate, before we jump ship to the next topic?
Well, again, for me, listen, Newcastle, like right, Bruce said, a great club, big club, everything else, but the word deserved doesn't come into it. At the end of the day, you're either good enough or you ain't. And for them, they weren't good enough on the day. And in my belief, they ain't going to be good enough under Eddie Howe. Again, I will say he's done a great job, but he's not the manager who's going to take them to any kind of major victory. Not at all, because it's clear, we've seen it time and time again now, running out of ideas, you know, sticking to this sort of same plan all the time. And, you know, listen, if they have got aspirations, Newcastle, of winning or at least competing, because that's all you can do in this current climate of football as it stands, is go out and compete. If you're good enough, you will win it. But it won't be under Eddie Howe, in my opinion. They've got to go to the next level, because there is levels to this, you know, winning the Premier League especially.
I think they'll be chuffed this season, Talk, even if they finish in the European spot.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if they finish in a sixth.
Even if they get Europa, I reckon that would be a huge achievement. And then obviously they've got, you know, some questions to answer. Do they stick with Eddie for another year, or do they pull the trigger and try to go big? Only time will tell, I guess.
I think he's got to hit his ceiling, isn't he, Talk? Like, he's got to hit that point. I don't think he's hit it yet. I think he's over-exceeded what you said. Like, he's not that sort of manager to be a Champions League manager for say, because he hasn't necessarily got the experience like someone they were looking at originally, like, you know, Emery. So do you think eventually he will hit a point where it will be easier for them to sack him? Because right at this moment in time, Geordies love him no matter what. Like, they would be fuming if he just got sacked for getting them Champions League this year and then goes, sorry, we're going to go with someone who's a bit better than you for Champions League now. Bye bye. Do you think it'd be a bit hard?
Well, it would. Well, let's look at it from a point of view of look. These Saudi owners have bought Newcastle in a fashion where they're going right. Okay, look, we're not just going to go out splashing money left, right, and centre, crazy style, to the pushing the limits of FFP and everything else. They've got geezers in from Manchester City who know how that was done. Now there has to be incremental performance-based improvements in terms of what Eddie Howe is doing with the squad and the team, where he's taking them every time they spend money. There has to be a performance improvement, i.e., you win something or you get further up the table and secure positions to get in X competitions, which brings in revenue, helps FFP. Okay, you're doing a good job because it's allowing us to keep swelling. But if he doesn't do that, why are they going to stick with him? And again, I'll keep pointing out the fact of the matter is they will not want, in my opinion, they will not want the team, the mood of the club and everything to start slipping backwards before they sack him. They will identify the moment, which in my opinion could be around about now, where they're already starting to think, okay, well, yeah, you've done a good job, and then it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're doing a good job, but going forward, where does that go now from this point onwards? So if I believe they're probably already in that mindset now, starting to ask the question, are you actually the guy to take us forward? Can you do it? If he gets top 6 and gets into maybe the Europa League, then I believe he will. I think they'll probably keep him on, but then it's for him to then prove in that first quarter.
Yeah, if he finishes in a European spot, talk, I think he deserves at least a year.
Yeah.
Well, I even think personally, if they not now because they've over exceeded, but if they would have originally just touched 8th, just outside the European spots, I still think that would have been an achievement from last year where they were in the relegation zone.
Absolutely. But I think you have to sort of reassess your targets according to how you're doing, don't you? So now, in the position they find themselves in, it would be an absolute travesty if they were to drop out of the European places. And if they qualify for Europe, then you give him a window, and then you see how he does next year.
Yeah.
That's the thing, Brush. Yeah. That's the thing. You just hit the nail on the head, and this is the thing here. It's like, look how fast I'm running, and everybody's like, "Whoa, I didn't know you could run that fast." Right? Can you go a bit faster? Oh no, I can only go that fast. And that's what's happened here. Is it seems to me that Newcastle they've come out of the blocks under Eddie Howe, wallop bang, and they've hit the ceiling straight away, bang.
Yeah.
And now they're just bouncing,
And also, like, there's obviously a reliance on some of their key players, like Bruno Guimaraes and that. And there's a big drop off in quality when he's out of the team. So that'll be something for them to address in the summer as well. Strength in depth, and then I'll probably just, if I was them, I'd probably sit back and see how he does in Europe next year as well, and in the league, to see if he can juggle the two. If I'm getting similar results in the league as well as pushing in Europe, and if that's not being met, then I'd start looking at the creme de la creme of Europe.
Yeah, completely agree. We talked a lot about Newcastle there. We do like to talk about the opposition as well when we do play them, but it was interesting. We're going to be moving on now. I'm going to read out a few comments before we do. Smash the like, share, subscribe if you are watching. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Solo from the Man United Agenda says, big up, bro.
Big up.
Big up to Solo. Bill Gav as well. Big up, Matt and Talk.
Big up, Mark.
Big up to you, Bargav, mate. Matt Bassett as well is in the house. Evening all.
Matthew, big up, legend.
Niall Kane here too.
Big up
the legend. Okay, let's go on to our next topic, and then we got special guest Ozzie coming on roughly in about 10 minutes time. So we're going to talk about Viva Garnacho. Seems to be the new song that's swirling around Old Trafford, because he came on in the second half and bagged what we thought was going to be the last goal and the winner of the game, but it wasn't to be, because Fred managed to get a goal right at the very end. What do you make of Garnacho? He's done it again. I think we've even said about this a few times on the show, definitely me, how great he is coming off the bench and producing something when you really need it. He's done it a few times now, and it kind of does remind me of the young Ronaldo. The way he runs with the ball, the way he tries to do things, and the way that shot last night was perfect. You know, he'd been trying that on the training ground for quite some time. He'd been putting in a lot of work, and it's paid off. Like, brilliant goal. Talk, what did you make of the performance last night? Obviously, the first half was really rubbish. Yeah. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, again, the first half, I mean, Garnacho, it's I don't know what bracket to put him in, if I'm honest. I don't know what bracket to put him in, because for me, it's for him to be, like you just said, the young Ronaldo. You know what? That's down to him. No, he's capable, in my opinion. I think he's more than capable.
The playing style, yeah, and like the fact that he comes on and scores goals when you really need him. He's that sort of player with that finesse, that can do that.
Yeah, but did he not start the game?
No, he come on, didn't he?
No, he started.
Oh, he started.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, wait a minute, he started the game because it didn't start the greatest. It wasn't the greatest first half, and he wasn't sort of pulling up any trees. But then in the second half, with other changes, he totally turned it around. And again, that's down to him. That's his mentality. That's his confidence levels. How he can reach and keep those confidence levels peaking. And believing in himself that, no matter what mistakes I make during the game, and this is one of the things I always talked about in previous podcasts and whatnot, is learning it from his mistakes. Any player learning from the mistakes during the game. And for him,
how about me learning from my mistakes? Can I?
There you go. Midstream, you've got to learn midstream, right? So. He did learn from what was going wrong in the first half. He came out the second half and put it right.
And we've got to keep in mind as well, there was wholesale changes yesterday. So that first half, we looked disjointed, and rightly so, because these players aren't used to playing together and that. And with the games coming thick and fast, obviously there was bound to be rotation at some stage. And I'm glad it happened yesterday. I think I was on with Talk the day before, and you could tell Talk I had one eye on Sunday, and so I'm glad that the rotations happened against West Ham.
Yeah, I was happy about the rotation. I was, and I know we just said off stream when I said about we seem to be getting too comfortable with not coming out and playing well, like necessarily in the first half, and
that does concern me. That is a pattern that I picked up on. It's almost as if we need to get scared into like waking up and playing.
Because if that's the right team brush,
and at some point, you can't rely on that. You need to start coming out the blocks firing from the get go. Otherwise, we will get punished eventually. But I can't be too harsh on the lads though, because like I say, there was wholesale changes. So there's a mishmash of stuff going on in the first half. And even then, I think Ten Hag saw it as well. So he made the changes early on. Casemiro came on and made an immediate impact. Lovely through ball to Weghorst, and he really should have done better there with that chance that he had. So overall, I'm obviously very pleased that we got the win, and that's the most important thing. There was a moment in time where I thought it was going to go sideways, especially when we conceded. The manner in which we conceded as well really annoyed me. This is something that they can sort out in the training ground, obviously, but in this day and age, you never, ever take anything for granted or stop playing. Even if you think the ball's gone out or you think whatever, if it's offside, whatever, you just keep playing.
Do you know, that's the thing. Let me just say this. When we went 1-0 down, I was not in any way thinking we're going to lose this game. And that's because the confidence that I've got in.
I tell you what, that it gave me a flashback to one Paulo Di Canio, 1-on-1 with Fabian Barthez. You'll remember the one where Fabian tried his best to tell him he's offside. Everyone else had stopped playing, and he tucked it away. It took me back to that, and take nothing away from Benrahma. It was a lovely finish, but everyone else is, a few of the lads had their hands raised and they just kind of stopped. And I thought, you know what, it could be one of those annoying days. But like you say, the belief in this team is unbelievable.
If that would have been last year, we would have lost that game.
Yeah, probably. I'll tell you what, we even got to see Fergie time yesterday. Because honestly, I don't know how he got the third goal, because the referee, I don't know what he was looking at. It was a good minute after added time had finished that the goal came. So he really should have blown the whistle. Not that I'm complaining.
What did you make from West Ham's perspective as well? I mean, they just let go, didn't they, in the end? They were cruising 1-0. They were really pushing on us. They were looking like the better team. And then after we got the equaliser, that was it, really, wasn't it?
Very much so. I was quite surprised, actually. They lined up a lot stronger than I thought they would. I thought they would have rotated a fair bit because obviously in the league they're not doing too great. So I thought they would have prioritised that. But yeah, credit to them. They put out a strong team, decent showing, and we got De Gea to thank as well that we didn't concede more goals. Yeah, pulled off one or two lovely saves.
Yeah, he did, didn't he, Talk? He outstanding performance, and Casemiro as well coming on and making a difference. And I think he's probably got to be the best buy. And him and Martinez is pretty close, to be fair. But I'd say probably our best buy this summer.
Yeah, we're not 100%. I mean, that was the position we've been crying out for
years.
A quality player to take that role, and he's an absolute Rolls Royce or a Bentley, whatever you want to describe him as. He's absolutely top quality. And David De Gea again, earning his wages, making saves and everything else. But I mean, West Ham, they're in real trouble. They really are, and I don't understand. I don't see why they're sort of sticking with it. I think it's time for a change there, in my opinion. It's his second stint. It's his second stint. He had a really good season last season. They were in the Europa League, and then they got, I remember listening to fans on the radio talking about how buzzing they are that they're going into this level, into the Europa. Was it the Conference League? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought they recruited quite well in the summer as well.
They are. They're doing good in this Conference League. I think they pretty much won every single game in their groups. Pretty much a 99% good record, apparently. Or 100%.
But then they come up against Eintracht Frankfurt and just got absolutely tated, and it all fell apart. And I think that's difficult to come back from without, making some big changes in terms of the management setup and the coaching setup and everything else. And I think it was a huge risk, which is obviously quite clearly not paying off. And obviously no respects to David Gold. Was it David Gold who passed away?
Yeah.
Yeah, condolences and all that to him and his family and whatnot. And I suppose that's not helped David Moyes in his ambition at the club. But I just think maybe for both parties, it's probably a good time to actually say, you know what, we need to sort of go our own way here if they're going to give.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I thought they did some tiny business in the summer as well. So it's not like he's not been backed in the market as well. I think it also talks to how tough our league is now. Because looking at the bottom, it's one hell of a relegation battle. And all of those teams, I can pick out individuals and I can be like, oh, do you know what? He's a quality player, I can see him somewhere else. So whoever goes down, there's going to be a few bargains to be had, I think.
I was going to say, guys, just to throw it in here, just before we invite Ozzie in to give his Liverpool perspective of Sunday's game, would you take Declan Rice? Was you impressed by him last night? I know he's on our radar, potentially.
Yeah, I've rated Declan Rice for a long time. He's a great player. He really is.
I like Rice. The only things that concern me about him is the fact that he's English, and that comes with a premium. And they would want a ridiculous amount of money. And obviously, with our ownership up in the air, we don't know what's happening, what kind of budget we're working with in the summer.
The question I've got, though, Brush, I don't know if you agree, is given that we are still, only at maybe 30% or maybe 50%, some people would say, of how Ten Hag wants us to play.
Yeah.
We have not seen Declan Rice play in a team that has played that real.
And also I see sort of Rice as less important for us right now. I see him potentially coming in maybe as Casemiro's time starts to come to a close. I feel like Cass is good enough to do what he's doing, and what we need now is a ball progressor. The one name, you're going to hate me for mentioning this because all of last summer we were haunted by this guy. But last week at Old Trafford, Frankie showed what he's good at. And I couldn't help but think last week, I thought, if we had this guy in the team next to Casemiro, we'd be, we would be causing a lot of teams trouble.
Or Bellingham. or Bellingham.
Yeah, or Jude. But again, Jude as well is probably the hottest young property in football right now. So, I'm already hearing obscure random figures up to about 150 million for him.
Well, that's really good you say that, because I know Liverpool are also in the chase for him. And we're going to bring on now Liverpool fan to talk about Sunday's clash, Liverpool versus Man United at Anfield. Ozzie, mate, how you doing, mate? Welcome in.
I'm good, thank you. Thank you guys for inviting me. How's everyone today?
Yeah, not bad, thanks, mate.
Welcome.
How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Better spirit than I would say last week, being a Liverpool fan. The win yesterday did help. So looking forward to it, but not optimistic, if I'm being brutally honest, about this game coming up.
Yeah, what's going on in your thoughts with Liverpool at the moment, mate? I know there's been a struggle, hasn't there? And people talking about the midfield is up too old now, and with new players coming in as well and trying to make everything gel, it hasn't quite worked. Especially with Mane going to Bayern Munich as well, he seems to be a great miss. What is it for you, mate, in your mind about what's going on at Liverpool?
I think the midfield is the key. I think with it being an aging midfield, I think that has had a major impact in our season this year. Obviously, people would argue and say, look, last year we were trying to go for a quad. So what's changed in the space of under 12 months? We haven't really recruited any midfielders in the last 4 to 5 years. The last player we signed was Thiago.
And he was over 30, wasn't he, Ozzie, when you signed him?
Sorry?
And he was over 30, wasn't he, when you signed him?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think at the minute, our youngest midfielder, excluding Bajcetic, I think the average age is like 28, 29. So our midfield isn't really known for creativity. It's known for being the engine room of our team. So having players with pretty much no legs right now is having a big impact overall. It doesn't matter who you've got up top. If we haven't got the legs to kind of cover ground, and unfortunately our fullbacks are being more exposed this season as well due to the midfield not covering ground. Obviously, Trent Alexander-Arnold has been that sort of scapegoat amongst neutral fans and even Liverpool fans as well. So yeah, it's not looking good. It would have helped if we had new ownership as well. Obviously, there's a lot of rumors regarding FSU selling the club. Me personally, I never bought into that propaganda. I always had a feeling that they were looking for investors rather than doing a full sale of the club. Money talks in this day and age. So for me, they were never going to sell the club. So I know United are linked with Qatari owners. Must be nice because we were linked at them at one point as well.
Nothing's set in stone yet, Ozzie. It's all paper until it gets done.
It could be you in the end, mate. That would hurt me if it went, actually, if you don't want our money, Liverpool are happy for it.
We'll take it. We'll take it with open hands. But yeah, I think
we get Mike Ashley. That's what we'll get.
Can you imagine one of my United fans actually joked saying, "Oh, what would you take him?" Like, hell no, I would rather stay with FSG right now. That person is not even an option right now. But yeah, it's been a very up and down season. The problem with Liverpool is when we get a win, fans are obviously excited because wins are coming as a rare commodity right now, to be fair. And we're thinking, oh, the next one we're going to do really well. It hasn't been the case. I think we were quite lucky. I think Everton, that was a good performance, but the game against Newcastle, I think with Pope getting a red card, that pretty much went to our favor. So we haven't really improved in terms of our performances in the recent weeks. So in terms of Liverpool against United, I'm not confident. I'm not going to be shameless and say, we're going to beat you or whatnot. But we're in better position to at least give you guys a run for your money, I would say. So yeah.
You make a really good point because it was only this time last year we got spanked by you twice and it looked like we were never going to get to that point of being able to beat Liverpool home or away. And this year so far, the first time around, we have. What do you make about Liverpool at the moment and what Ozzie just said there? Are you agreeing on that too?
Yeah, I mean, look, Liverpool have been suffering some big injury list as well, which is obviously a huge concern we did mention this a few times about, we're all talking about strength and depth and everything else. But for me, I don't know, I've just got this feeling because I said the season that everybody was sort of saying that they're not going to get top four. I remember saying they're going to get top four. and they did.
When bloody Alisson scored that header.
Yeah, and you know what? It's all about, for me. It's when you look at Jurgen Klopp, you know what he says and the way he puts himself across, everything else after the games. And I'll just read you a little quote. I think this was after the Brighton game. He said, "I have no sign for this performance before the game, but that's how it is sometimes. There's nothing to say why I thought it could happen." So he couldn't see it coming. You know, he's always sort of looking ahead. So he's always thinking ahead. So he's not going to be, you know, he's not looking. Why should he be looking for signs when you're talking about a team that have done exceptionally well over the past, 3-4 seasons, right? You know, being consistent in the performance and everything else. But it's all about the mentality for me with Liverpool. And that's one of the things that I fear with the club, because regardless of the injuries and everything else, you don't lose mentality overnight, right? This is a confidence thing. This is a trust thing in the partnerships that you're now seeing on the pitch. You know, if you're not 100% confident and sort of raring to go because you've got X player beside you who's going to be helping you out, the slightest bit of doubt, you can't have that in a team like Liverpool who play the way they play. It's all 100 mile an hour, bang, 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 bang. If you got the ball, we're going to get it. We rob you of the ball, and then before you know it, there's 2 or 3 attempts at your goal. And we know their conversion rate, the numbers game. We create 4 chances, we're going to score at least 2. How many chances are you going to create, and how many are you going to convert? Usually, you might create 2 as the opposition. And if you're very lucky, you'll score 1. So Liverpool will always beat you on the numbers game from that point of view. But I mean, I'm looking at Liverpool now and thinking, you know what? I'm not going to rule them out of just going on a run, because I think once they actually find that formula again and start to get them confidence levels up, I think they're going to be a real danger. So coming to the game, I'm not as confident as I want to be. I'll put it that way.
Any reply to that, Ozzie? Would you agree, like from a Man United fan perspective there on Liverpool? It's quite hard to do, isn't it? Because obviously we're rivals, aren't we? And we shouldn't be like having a really nice and an easy discussion right here. We should be fighting and cat scratching and backbiting and everything, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
No,
I think it's a fair point, to be fair. I think, you don't lose that mentality overnight. You know, Klopp calls us mentality monsters. So there's still something within that squad. I just think having that mentality is great, but physically, I don't think a lot of our players are capable of producing what we've produced over the years. So that's my concern. In terms of the top 4 race, I'll be shameless to say I think we might just nick it and get that 4th spot. But at this minute, I wouldn't say with a lot of confidence due to the fact that we've been so inconsistent this year. This game against United, if we get the win, because this is our game in hand as well, I think this will have a great turning point for our season. But consistency, that hasn't really happened for Liverpool this year. So yeah, I can understand your viewpoint in terms of being nervous. I think rivalry between the 2 clubs, I think it's a one-off game. So anything can happen in this fixture. It doesn't really matter who's in form or where you are in the league. Anything can happen on the day. So looking forward to it to an extent, but at the same time, I feel like I'll be feeling the pressure going into the game.
Yeah, I agree with Ozzie Brush there. It's definitely one of those games that anything can happen. And if Liverpool do well, it could really kickstart their campaign to try and get back into top 4. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. That's what adds an element of excitement to me. On top of it, generally, it's one of those games that we look forward to every year, isn't it? For me, I don't think we can underestimate the psychological impact that it had on their players in this last year when they missed out on the quad. Because, you know, that was the talk all the way up until they were literally 1 week away from doing that. Yeah. And then to walk away with neither of the big trophies, you know, I think that's had a huge psychological impact on the players.
I'm sorry for this, Ozzie. This is
I know. I was ready to turn my camera off there.
Just reminding him of that blow.
And also, you know, that and the fact that Klopp hasn't really been backed for a proper rebuild. You know, and even when you're winning at the top of the game, you have to keep things fresh. You know, every couple of years, I think a few of those players probably got a bit too comfortable, to be honest. And then that, and also the decline in form, of 1 or 2 has definitely caught me by surprise. I'm sure it's the same for you, Ozzy. Fabinho particularly comes to mind. I thought he was one of the finest midfielders in his position. And over the past 6 months to a year, I don't know what's happened to him. Age-wise as well, like you would think he would be coming into his prime now, right?
Yeah, I think Fabinho has been so shocking.
Yeah,
yesterday was actually probably his best performance all season, but he's
yeah,
not had many. It's far to select from that. So no,
yeah. And
definitely.
regarding us playing you lot on Sunday, like, listen, every time I've had chest going into this game in the last couple of years, we've been walloped. So yeah, I don't take that for granted. Like, it is Derby Day, obviously. So
I wanted to take you back, Brush, because you said it's the picture we always look for, and I'm like, last year after the first one at Old Trafford, I didn't.
Oh, listen. I look for it on the calendar, Matt. I don't enjoy the actual game. It's one of those, you earmark it on the calendar. You can't wait till it starts, and then 20 minutes into it, you just want it to be over. It's one of those, isn't it? But yeah, I probably couldn't pick a better time to play him. Maybe about 2 weeks ago before Van Dijk came back. But yeah, we're on the ascendancy, obviously, so they will be brimming with confidence. Yeah, I look forward to it. It'll be a real test, obviously. You can never rule Liverpool out, especially in a derby game. Anything can happen. So league form and everything else kind of goes out the window as well, doesn't it? So it's one of those. But I'm quietly confident, if that makes sense. It's one of those.
I like Ozzie. You do your podcasts, etc. You probably speak to a lot of Liverpool fans. Are they feeling this the same as you? Are they feeling like this could be potentially a win for us? Like it is this big battle, and this could kickstart the rest of the season for you? Or are they a little bit shaky about seeing Man United in the last couple of games, lifting a trophy, going through in the FA Cup? And do you think we're kind of vulnerable a little bit as well? We were talking about our vulnerability at like not being able to perhaps score and see games off in the first half. Other teams always seem to come out from the get-go and seem to dominate. Do you think that's something that Liverpool might take advantage of, like other teams haven't been able to for the rest of the game?
I think in terms of the current fan base, I would say they're a bit more optimistic than they probably were last week, considering the bad defeats we had against Real Madrid. So we're in better spirits, but I think Liverpool fans that I've spoken to are pretty much still a bit more cautious regarding this game. I think they're not overly excited or overly confident about getting the win. You have to take the form into consideration that United have just won the Carabao Cup. Obviously, people can call it Mickey Mouse Cup, whatever, but it's a trophy at the end of the day. So that just boosts the morale within the squad automatically. So, you know, the game against West Ham yesterday, on another day, it could have been a game where you probably drew that game. If Antonio scored those couple of chances, you know, it could have been a different game overall. So I think definitely United have that cutting edge where they can fight back and get either a point or a win. Liverpool, for me, don't have that bite this season. We normally start off games really bad. So if you think United start awfully in the beginning, we are completely shambles in consideration. So we concede a lot of our goals in like the opening 10 minutes. So for me, if United are pressing hard and going onto the Liverpool defense, I think that will literally open up a lot of wounds. And I think you guys could get the opening goal, and it could have a sort of domino effect on the Liverpool team. So this season, we haven't really been doing the whole traditional Gegenpress, in my opinion. We've deployed a very different tactical system. I think a lot of Liverpool fans, I'm sure you've heard, would say that it's come from our number 2, who's Pep Linders, who is from Holland, and he's
Ozzie, I've never heard a fan base talk about the number 2 so much in my life.
Are we talking about the number 2, or are you talking about a number 2?
Both in that regards. I think because they released that book mid-season called Intensity, and since that release of that book, we've lacked intensity in our play overall. So it's just been downhill since then. But we're not playing with that high press that we normally do. Another aspect for me that should have been changed or adapted is our defense line. We still play with a high line, and we don't really have the players to cover the ground when the opposition are attacking us. So,
and your fullbacks has never been great defensively.
I know we leak a lot of goals. So for me, I think United, if you guys start on the front foot, I will be concerned. So it will be interesting to see how the teams are tactically set up. Would it be a cautious game? Because I think over the years, it has really been a very cautious encounter between both teams. I think we've both been in situations where, let's say Liverpool in the title race, we don't want to drop points, and United don't want to be embarrassed by losing to their local rivals as well at the same time. So I think this season we've got a bit more to play for now. We're trying to elevate ourselves and go for that top 4 race. United are doing really well, and I don't know how you guys feel, but have an outside chance of possibly challenging for the title. So it'll be interesting to see how this game unfolds.
Yeah, we were last.
I wanted to say,
yeah, go on.
I see this as playing out as for us, a mid-block counter, because listen, we're in good form, we're in good spirits, we've got great confidence, and we're coming to Liverpool now. Again, regardless of the performances and everything else at the moment, they're still a very dangerous team. Some fantastic players in that team, and Erik ten Hag totally knows that. So, by us going into the game in that fashion against Liverpool is a case of, look, come on then, you come and beat us, but at the same time, you be aware of what we've got on the break with pace. You know what I mean? We've got so many options, and then for me, I think it's going to be it will blend into a fantastic game the longer it goes on. I don't see it starting as a fact. I think everybody's just going to be sat there waiting for a game to start, even once the
it's all about who settles first, isn't it? So I think it will be it will be a nervy one to start off with. Everyone just be a bit apprehensive and then see who settles.
But
what do you make? Oh no, sorry,
Matt. No,
please.
I was just going to say, with Liverpool, don't forget this is Manchester United, Liverpool, Man United. Form, like Bruce said, out the window, blah blah blah. Them players, they are going to be 100% up for it, like chomping at the bit to get out on that pitch to prove a point. Because in their minds, you got to look at it from their point of view as a squad, as a team. They're looking at this and going, "Yeah, wait a minute, that team, they were crap last season. They were nowhere. They were all over the shop. Hold on a minute, they've just won a cup. Everybody's talking about them being title challengers. What's going on here?" And if they, in my opinion, if Liverpool come out and they actually do a number on us on Sunday, which I hope they don't, obviously, but if they do, that could be the defining moment in Liverpool.
That could give them the impetus, like Ozzie said, to make that late push.
Klopp would love it, wouldn't he?
Which also is added motivation for me to get 3 points, because that will just completely shatter them.
Yeah, there is that. Sorry, go on. What you say?
Well, saying like Klopp would love it as well. I mean, I hear every now and then some people like maybe questioning him, which I think is stupid because of the achievements that he's had with being at Liverpool. It was first he came in. I think the game that changed it from, in my view, of Liverpool when he came in was that Dortmund semi-final in the Europa League. It's at Anfield, wasn't it? A brilliant game of football. I think that was his turning point. That's when you knew this guy was going to take Liverpool on. Yeah. Do you think the murmurs of people saying or thinking that Klopp might not be the future is that just ridiculous, or do you kind of think they have a fair point?
I think it's ludicrous to be honest with you. I do understand the fans' frustration just because of the way we've played this season. They're not used to seeing us playing below par. So I think right now, because it's not very easy to point fingers in terms of what's gone wrong, I think there's different aspects where fans will say, we haven't invested enough in the club. So we're looking at the owners in that regards. Klopp apparently had money to spend last summer, but he refused to spend it on certain players. So people are looking at Klopp. And as I mentioned earlier, people are looking at number 2 as well, Pep Lijnders. Is he having more of an influence? So there's a lot of factors in terms of amongst the Liverpool fan base that we're not quite sure in terms of why the season has unfolded the way it has. And there's also key areas like the players not playing to their level, injuries, as that was previously mentioned as well. So there's a lot of factors. But for me, Klopp arguably is one of the best Liverpool managers that I've had in my lifetime. The big question is, if Liverpool fans want him to go, who would you replace him with? For me, there's no manager out there.
I know one.
You know what? He's a great appointment.
You could always bring Roy Hodgson back, couldn't you? He's
God forbid. That was torture, to say the least. That was a very torrid time. I think he should just stay retired in that regards. But no, for me, I don't understand. I get the frustrations from Liverpool fans, but I feel like it's very short-term kind of point of view where, just get rid of the manager. that's not our culture as well as a club. We don't just get rid of managers just because they're having a bad blip. Roy Hodgson, unfortunately,
you know
was
what it
one of
is,
the
don't you,
managers.
Ozzy? It's because
Roy
we
was
live
one.
in this TikTok generation.
I know.
People just want instant gratification.
Yeah, Jake Paul's going to be the manager next, isn't he?
Since he's
it's one of
announced that he's
those.
a Liverpool fan, we've gone downhill as well. So he might be a bad luck on our boat there. But
an analogy I want to use here, right? A quick
Yeah.
one when it comes to Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool, and it's if your guitar's out of tune, you don't change your guitar, right? You don't. You just don't. You change the strings, yeah, or the intonations out on the neck, so you get it looked up and get it sorted. Don't change the guitar. Now, for me, with Jurgen Klopp, it's like the words you use there, Ozzie, the blip. It's a blip. It's a tough time, injuries.
Yeah.
You know, uncertainty around the ownership of the club. It's a bit of a Man United going on and happening.
Listen, aging players, complacency from some of them being there too long. For me, he's got enough credit in the bank that you give him a chance to fix it. And then if that doesn't happen, then you look at it later on down the line.
Well, if it doesn't happen, then clearly you are Jimmy Page throwing out your guitar out of a bedroom window, aren't you? There's clearly going to need to change your guitar.
Hotel room.
But I think that's the thing, isn't it? If they're not going to back him and give him what he wants, I know he's complained as well, Ozzie, in media as well, in interviews, saying about they can't compete with the likes of Man City and what's going on at Newcastle at the moment. He has a fair point about that, really. Liverpool, unfortunately, aren't that club to just compete with Man City. They can't blow them out the water to try and buy players. The players that come to Liverpool have to want to come to Liverpool and be on the wage structure that is agreed from management, bosses, players.
And I tell you what as well, I always wonder to what degree Klopp might be protecting the owners, because we've always heard this, that Klopp is very meticulous with who he wants to sign, and there's money to spend but he doesn't want to spend it. But is that the case, or is it the fact that he has to work within a certain budget and that's why he's waiting? I know certainly we felt it in the last couple of years of Fergie, when he was out here telling us that there's no value in the market when replacing the best player in the world at the time with the best player at Wigan. We've seen it with Wenger.
Good scouting.
We've seen it with Arsene Wenger in his final third of his time under Kroenke. And I just think, are these top managers just deflecting the inadequacies of the people above them?
That's for you, Ozzie. Yeah, fire away.
To be honest with you, I think the Klopp is being very careful in terms of what he says in the media. I don't think he will outrightly say the owners are terrible or whatnot. At the end of the day, he's employed by them, so he's not going to say exactly how he feels.
Don't bite the hand that feeds you, as they say.
Exactly. So he will have little sort of subliminal digs at the owners where he's saying, I don't have enough funds to compete with the likes of United and City. And it's a fair point, because since FSG bought the club, we've pretty much had that sell to buy policy where we sell our highest asset players and then try and generate money. Coutinho was a prime example. If there was no Coutinho sale, I don't think Liverpool will be in this situation where we've had all these trophies in the last few years. Yeah. That was a pivotal part in our success in the last few years. So that's my concern with FSG, where are we going to have the funds to compete? I don't think we are. They want investors to come into the club. I don't think no one's that silly to just invest 200 million and be a minority stakeholder and think that's acceptable. They'd want a large stake in the clubs, so obviously they can generate revenue. So for me, it's just one of those things where Klopp is being very careful in what he says. I don't believe the notion that he actually had money to spend last year. I know we bought Nunes for around 60 million plus add-ons, but that was because we sold Mane, Origi went free, and then we had minimums. That was all from player sales as well at the same time. So
yes, the net spend is what you have to look at.
Exactly. So FSG are experts at balancing the books, and I hate to break it to Liverpool fans, but that is what's going to happen in the summer. So all this talk of getting Jude Bellingham, and look, obviously I would never say no to a young talent like Jude Bellingham, but for me, in reality, it's not going to happen. So yeah, we just have to face facts in that regards.
Okay. For me, I think as well, it's about why would Jurgen Klopp sort of want to attack his own like the safety net of the stability of the squad and what's been happening at the club. over the last 4 years, 4 seasons, whatever you however you want to look at it, has been that the stability of the club. All right, I know internally in terms of finances and everything else, that's just you've got to work to budgets. You have to work to budgets, and he's already proven that he can do that very successfully. As you say, you're a whisker away from doing something that us Man United fans were like. Just if you'd have done it, I wouldn't be sat here now talking about football.
Listen.
That'd have been the end of it.
We know how sick we felt last day of the season, because second half I wasn't even paying attention to the Crystal Palace game. My eye was firmly on what was happening at City and with Liverpool. I thought, you know when you just get that gut wrenching, horrible feeling.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, that Aguero commentary still rings in my ears. And on the last day of last season, I thought it was going to be the same, but with Salah or Mane. Honestly,
To ask you one more question, Ozzie, before we finish up, and I'll read out some comments. I know Ads is in the house. Big up to you, Ads. Nice to speak to you on the phone the other day, mate. Top one. Is what do you make of Ten Hag, his first season? Just from a Liverpool's perspective on Man United and him at the moment.
I think he's done a fantastic job. Because I cover pretty much the Premier League on my podcast. That is one of the names I said last year that if United were to get Ten Hag, I think he's the one that will literally change the fortune of the club. I've rated him very highly from previous times. Obviously, he was assistant coach with Pep Guardiola as well. So, he's come from a good pedigree in terms of coaching and experience. So, for me, I think he's done a fantastic job. He's got a bit of money in terms of what he spent last year. The signing of Anthony for me was a big signing, but I feel like he hasn't quite adjusted to the team. But I feel like with new players coming in, it always takes time for them to adapt to new surroundings. Obviously, it's a new league as well. So I think as a first season, I think he's done a fantastic job. To have silverware as well, and you guys are fighting for that quad now, apparently. So, it's in a good position. You've got to be fighting in all fronts, and he's doing that in his opening season. So, worryingly, it's looking good for United. I think you've got the right manager. I don't think there would have been any other manager that would have had this impact so soon, in my opinion.
Very fair opinion from a Liverpool fan there. Usually be quite bitter, but you're not. You've got your head on your shoulders. Nice to hear. Adil says, big up to you, Matt. Hope all is well, brother. Big up, mate. Losing Mane is the biggest loss to Liverpool. The fear factor has disappeared. We need to go into this game with Case, Fred, Casemiro and Fred, who are dominating at the moment. Everybody agree with that? Russian talk, especially?
With the Mane thing, though, I understand why the sale had to happen. Irrespective of how good you are, from a business point of view, and in footballing terms as well, from the age of 30 onwards, there's only one way your value and form are going, and you're going to be in a decline. Obviously, there's one or two exceptions to the rule, but when you're trying to balance the books and whatnot, I can understand what they were trying to do. Obviously, it's not gone fantastically for Núñez, but again, it takes time for players to adapt. He's only 22, and he might be missing a lot of chances, but the positions he's getting into and everything else he does, he is a useful player to have. The way he's running the channels and getting involved. So, I think in the long run, other teams are in trouble if he starts finding the net as well.
What do you make of this talk as well with Ads? There's a backline of Shaw, Martinez, Raphael and AWB is going to be dangerous. Agree with that?
Well, they've proved already, especially Martinez and Raphael Varane, they've proved that they're more than good enough to cope. Luke Shaw's come on a ton. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, the transformation there, is obviously still more defensively. His defensive ability is much better. However, when you watch him play and he does this kind of tucking into the midfield role, he's doing okay with it, to be honest. He is doing all right. But, the first comment there about Casemiro and Fred, it's... I don't know. It seems like a really strange combination. Even still, like it might be getting us results. It's not the future. It's just not the future, in my opinion. I don't think Fred, as much as he's improved and as much as he's doing this, that, and the other. If you watch the games and consider, where we are in the season, the opposition that we're coming up against, in most of the games and watch the performances. It's then when you actually realise, you know what? If you put the percentages of nonsensical actions by Fred and add it all up, it becomes a certain percentage of the game that's wasted. And then you're talking about going in for major trophies and being consistent. You cannot have that in your makeup. You just can't. So I understand where Az is coming from with that. But at the end of the day, going forward, Fred is not part of the future of Manchester United, in my opinion.
It's definitely not starting. He might be there next season, but he'll be pushing hard to even try and get a starting spot, I think. But at this moment in time, I agree with Ads. It has to be Fred and Casemiro starting, because Fred is doing a lot better than McTominay. He has a better impact, and he's getting goals even when he probably shouldn't. So what we're going to do, we're going to finish off. Ads has put a last one in, and I'm going to ask everybody what they think the score's going to be. He thinks it's going to be 2-0 to United. Let's ask you, Ozzie, and please also tell us where we can find you, mate. Thank you once again for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
No problem at all. Thank you for inviting me, guys. You can follow me at OzzieFTP on Twitter, and my podcast is Football Talk Podcast. You can join the show. I don't just do Liverpool content. I try to analyze the whole of the Premier League. So I do weekly episodes. Match week 25, I'll be doing later on tonight. So make sure to tune in. In terms of my prediction for this game, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. It's not the result that I would want as a Liverpool fan, because we're trying to push for that top 4 challenge. But I think looking into United's form, and I think it being at Anfield as well, we would have a bit more of an uplift in terms of our spirit. So I'm going for probably a cautious result. I'm going for a 1-1 result.
Ooh, it's going to be a tight game then. It sounds good, actually, mate. I would take a 1-1 actually if it was going to be one of those games. So, cheers. Thank you so much, Ozzie. Brush.
I'm going for 2-1 United.
Oh, nice. Are we going 1-0 down at first?
Maybe. But I see it finishing 2-1.
Where can we find you as well, Brush? Thank you once again for coming on.
You can find me on Twitter at Brushy87. Outside of that, I just kind of float about, so you'll catch me here, there, and everywhere.
Cheers, mate. Thank you once again. And last but not least, Talk MU. Thank you for coming on once again, bro. What do you think the score is going to be? I know you're pretty good at this. And where can we find you, bro?
Again, thanks for having me, Matt, again. It's been a pleasure. Fantastic chatting with Ozzie there, and obviously Brush goes without saying. I think I'm going to go 1-0 United, just because I think it's going to be, like I said, mid-block counter. It's down to Liverpool to come and beat us. But I think it could be a very cagey affair until it may be even into the start of the second half. I think it's going to be not the game that people are expecting it to be. So, and you know where to find me on Twitter. I talk MU, and on my channel, United58, and it's not called Football versus Cancer anymore. It's called My Football Romance. So go check that out. Bro. Big up.
Big up, Talk. Yep, everybody, please go check out everybody's content if you can. It would mean so much. I'm going to go with a 2-2. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think we might even go 2-0 down and pull it back to 2-2. I hope for 3-2 if that does happen, of course. But I think 2-2. I think it's going to be a few goals. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Smash the like, share, subscribe if you can. And also just want to say thank you to everybody for the support you've given to Stephen and his family during a difficult time. It means so much. So once again, I want to say thank you so much for the support. I've been in touch with his sister, and it means the world to him to see how much he was loved by everybody. So just keep doing your thing for his charity, children's liver disease awareness, if you can, and go to SFeetly TV. Please subscribe and become a member, because when you subscribe and you become a member, it goes to charity, and it'd mean a lot to him. I know it would. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you again very soon. Have a brilliant weekend. Take care.
Take care, all.
Take care, guys.